I have seen multiple times where articles such as this one claim to some specific games losing over 90% of their player fan base. Games such as Palworld, Helldivers 2, and yes, even Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Real quick before we get further into the video, this video is just simply an explanation to why there has been significant drops in player bases, and just because it won't ever hit its peak of all-time players as hit when it was either first released or during its first week doesn't necessarily mean that the game is dead forever. I remember when Palworld was just announced like it was yesterday. There was so much hype surrounding this game from so many people, but the main issue was with its release were just simply the Pokemon fans. I remember it like it was none other. These Pokemon fans were absolutely furious that a game such as this was coming out, and of course, there would be backlash. Now, that isn't to say that all Pokemon fans hated the game. There were actually many Pokemon fans that honestly supported the creation of Palworld, me being included. I was such a hardcore Pokemon fan, at least up until Sword and Shield, where I just simply gave up on Pokemon because Game Freak, or the Pokemon Company as you may, just have been getting lazy, and it was just getting old. It was the old gimmicky games and everything, and I just got tired. I got bored, and that's completely okay. That's okay to do. So with Palworld, it was just a fresh new start. While yes, Palworld takes inspiration from Arc as well, it was just a brand new thing that essentially was just at the top of its game. And as well, the whole memeing and everything, meme culture with just Pokemon with guns and everything, that's what really made it skyrocket into popularity. You would expect for it to go well for Palworld and everything, but it really wasn't. What made Palworld skyrocket to its popularity, yes, it was the memes, but it was just mainly all the constant backlash from all the Twitter trolls that just adored Pokemon. And you would think Pokemon trolls or hardcore Pokemon fans would get their wish and bring Palworld to the ground, or let alone for it to just not exist. Were they wrong? Let's be honest here and just hold no bar, no accounting. We've all pirated Nintendo games. We all have done so. There's no hiding the fact. We've all played Nintendo games on our PC, on our freaking jailbroken Game Boys, whatever, this and that crap. We've all done that. We've all done that, obviously, because we're not going to pay full price for an 11-year-old game. So obviously, yes, every time there is a pirated website or anything else like that, obviously, what would you know? The Nintendo ninjas lurking in the corner would literally come down and strike that down with a force of known to man. But once Palworld was announced and some files were released, these so-called Nintendo ninjas literally became the Nintendo Fascist Party. These so-called ninjas straight up became Nazis. They hated the fact on how Palworld looked eerily similar to their so-called Blood of Christ. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely some aspects about Palworld that are quite concerning. But apart from that, these people made it their well-being to bring this game to the ground. From the massive threads explaining how Palworld ripped off Pokemon, to the Pokemon Company themselves coming out with a statement of their own regarding Palworld, and all for the final result of Big Don Nintendo to come out with a lawsuit of their own after so much time. You would think Palworld would lose majority of its players due to simply the lawsuits or the ongoing lawsuit now and everything, but no, that wasn't the case. Palworld lost majority of its players, or 90% of their player base, like how everyone wants to say it now for some strange reason. They lost that percentage of their player base simply because it was just still an early access game with a repetitive gameplay loop, massive technical bugs, and as well an endgame that just lacks other continuity. It's no wonder that Palworld, or at least the player base of Palworld, had significantly dropped during that time. However, this doesn't deny the fact Palworld had broken quite a few records when it was first released, from shattering records that were held by massive AAA companies to selling over 3 million copies after releasing for less than 2 days. It just goes to show even the negativity that Palworld endured by the Nintendo Nazis just made it good for the game. Imagine a broken, buggy mess, shattering records, beating this other piece of shit, and having funny ass glitches every time you hop in for a session. Now that's a game I definitely want to play. Helldivers 2 was an anticipated game from the start it was announced. I mean, who else wants to fight for Donald Trump's American democracy? Hell, it sounds like fucking fun. Sure, I'll give it a shot. Beats my sleepy afternoon. Besides fighting for the main motherland, gamers all alike enjoyed playing Helldivers for a slew of reasons, from the fast-paced action to the addictive nature of the start and having amazing graphics is basically any gamer could wish for if you were into the FPS team fighting genre. Helldivers 2 was one of those games that went from a massive success to just simply being utter garbage. And I believe there is only one culprit as to why Helldivers just went from such an amazing game to just garbage. Or at least they were one of the causing factors to why their player base had dropped. Like, imagine having Helldivers 2 on your computer and you don't own a PlayStation, and only for just Sony in general to just be absolute fucking money grubbing dickheads and just be like, I see you bought our game. You're gonna have to make an account that are from our servers in order to play it. Then what the fuck was the point of buying the game if I have to make an account for a console that I don't own? Another reason was due to executive decisions for Helldivers 2. For those unaware, Arrowhead's CEO Johan Pilestedt I don't know, had stepped down, leaving Helldivers 2 in a rather dark place. And after all that, Helldivers 2 also started pumping out update after update, introducing more bugs, weapon nerfs, and so-called balancing that didn't really help the game overall. However, that isn't to say that Helldivers 2 had their fair share in the record department. They had broken a record that was previously held by God of War Ragnarok in 2022, and they had become PlayStation's fastest selling game since it was released. Oh boy, the big and final one that has caught so much attention of new players and old players alike. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Fun fact, actually, the inspiration for this video actually came from this short right here.
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has lost 90% of its players on Steam just after a month of launch. I literally called this to a fucking T. It was that casual players are going to love the story, they're going to play the fuck out of the story, they're going to do all their storylines or whatever, but then once they have to play ranked because they run out of content, it's gonna go out the window. Nobody's gonna want to play it. So many people are obsessed with this idea that a game has to live forever, and then if it doesn't, then it must suck or somebody ruined it. It's a great example of a game that had tons of story and tons of innovation, but then after about a month, you've played all the storylines. It broke literal records as the most played fighting game on Steam. It means it's a success. I played the shit out of it. It was fun. And then you move on to the next game. And that's okay.
Sparking Zero had released just last month, and already it seems it had lost 90% of its player base.
Right? Wrong!
Sparking Zero hasn't really lost 90% of their player base. And for those stating that the tryhards are the ones that ruined the game,
Please, shut your bitch ass up.
like, I hate versing Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta as much as you do. Hell, I hate playing him even more because it's such an easy win, but that's besides my point. The real reason Sparking Zero is losing its player base is the same reason why every other game loses their player base. Well, except you. You're just a patch of dirt at this rate. The reason why Sparking Zero lost 90% of its player base, and get ready for this because this is a real doozy. It gets me angry just knowing about it. They got tired. Imagine, how could they? How could people get tired of a game? Oh my god. Sparking Zero was basically a tribute to older fans who were so excited to get into the story and play online, but once they got into ranked, they already wanted to kill themselves because they had lost to a Smash Bros. Cut having ass bastard. Once the story mode was complete, and all that there was to do was play online, whether it being by yourself or with friends, ranked or not, the game can get boring. And so people move on to the next hot game that's available. It happens, and people need to realize that a lot more often. We've reached a point in modern gaming where it's okay to take a break from a game and move on to the next in line, like how every other game cycle has. But that isn't to say that I undermine people who play the same game constantly. There are those who love playing the same game over and over just for fun, whether if it's redoing the story, doing Easter eggs, or even playing for the continuity of it. That's okay too. Point is, articles that claim that it's such a bad thing that games have been losing 90% of their player base should realize that people get tired and it's completely normal, whether it be buggy glitches, technical difficulties, or even just simply you completed the game and so you want to go to the next. That is completely normal. I really appreciate the much love and support that I've gotten during the month of October. You guys have really, and I mean really, smashed it, and I could have not been any more proud of myself. I really hope that I get to upload more during this month. It's been getting a bit harder now because I got a new job and my full-time will be starting in soon, coming in 2 weeks. Hopefully I get to upload and hopefully I get to reach out to a bigger audience. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it this far into the video. Again, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Take care.